Welcome. It's 7:17 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, September 21st, 2022. So that's what they tell me. This is an OP or tOP, the Obry Project Briefs. It's not going to be in my typical briefs format where I feature the screen usually with a small video box. This is going to be entirely video. It's going to be a big file, so I'm going to have to go through and reduce and all that stuff, but that's okay. So that I can sort of speak directly to my audience. I'm going to entitle this, Where Am I? And what that refers to is there are a lot of content creators who have not only recently but over the years started out at one position, philosophically, idealistically, historically, culturally, religiously, you name it, and have either over time changed that position, some of them in a really interesting and I would cite uniform way for the most part. Some, and I would absolutely like to include myself in this category, have had to change beliefs based on what they see now as better evidence than what I saw a year ago. Now, I think that this can absolutely and has absolutely happened organically, and it should. To be honest, it should. Unless we get the fantastic good fortune of beginning on the right foot in almost every category that we approach, which I don't even see how that's remotely close to being possible, dreamable in today's world with as much disinformation that's deliberately inserted in front of us all the time, every day. Just our waking, our sleeping hours are just saturated with it. And I don't understand how a lot of these people, they just show up fully formed. It's funny. This is not me inserting some kind of doctrine or anything. It's just funny. Maybe haha, maybe weird. That the name that was given, and I'm not going where some people might think I'm going, I'm not. But it is funny. So the name that Jacob's brother was given when he was born, because according to the translations, it said he was hairy. I don't know how hairy. Maybe a little bit more than some, you know. And in a sense, it was like an ironic name he was given when he was born. It's O, Sha, U. Oshu. Oshu is like the verb form of completed, mature, finished. So almost like the perfect tense of a verb, you know. It was ironic. It was based on the way he looked when he was born, that he was given that name. Now, today we call it Esau. Now, we don't. It was transliterated terribly as Esau's. It's Oshu. What's funny about that is I was just going to cite all of the people, these content creators, these so-called truthers, that actually start they start out their career as truthers, like, we don't really have, for the vast majority of these people, some kind of a history that we can cite. Like, yeah, they were part of different blog spaces and discussion boards on topics like these for a really long time. You could actually go back and see them developing over that long period of time, you know. Most of the time, no. Most of the time, it's like they come out just like Esau, fully formed. And I'm not creating doctrine or dogma by saying that, but I find it's funny because certain religious sects, not only Christian, certain religious sects oftentimes tag their enemy as Esau. And even if they tag their enemy as Amalek or Omlak was a tribe. It was a grandson of Esau, Oshu. Okay, just funny weird. Let's say it, funny weird. But that's how a lot of them start out. And then what usually happens, and if this is coincidence, what an unfortunate coincidence. What usually happens is they go from that one fully formed opinion to another that tends to be very harmonious with a number of other content creators, which also seem to have made a shift from one paradigm to another. Now you could say maybe it was one of a few things. Total, complete, oh my God sort of coincidence. It could be entirely organic. Just, hey, they all started out like this because they were all really super smart and perceptive. That's why they had their all their ideas and beliefs fully formed. And then, of course, they all followed a very natural, logical, truthful progression of evidences and all ended up at the same place, totally flip-flopping on a lot of what they believed, but not flip-flopping like a bunch of fish that you've just dumped out on the shore, flip-flopping all over the place. They all seem to just flip-flop all kind of back into the same pool. That's weird. But there are some, and they are marginalized. You may not be able to bring many to mind because they're so marginalized. They're so shadow banned. And oftentimes these people, like myself, spend a long time very, very frustrated because they can't understand why they can't break through that wall of attention, not like baby attention, but proper, mature attention that their topics often absolutely demand and require. They get very frustrated because they spend so much time very marginalized. So you might not even be able to count all the ones that you think, unless you think those first guys I just talked about, that's all organic. And if you do, I don't know. We just really disagree a lot. You probably can't count on one hand these people that have all the signs of an organic change of opinion, change of mind, change of belief based on best evidence. Now, I'm making this video today on the record September the 9th. Oh no, September the 21st. 2022, so they say. Because I've actually changed a lot of things that I used to believe even just a year ago. Now, a lot of this started out as I was producing the feature, Bringing It All Together. But the thing is, it wasn't like I realized some things, and because I didn't want to go back and redo a bunch of work, I still put it out there. That wasn't it. What it was is I was realizing some oddities that I really couldn't explain as I was going through But they were fitting the structure, they were fitting the context well enough for me at the time to say, all right, well, I'm going to have to keep paying attention to these things, move forward. But what happened was they became so glaring after I produced that and published it that, and they weren't just like glaring in the sense that I had never noticed or thought of them before. I had, but just, little by little, things, they have this cumulative effect, You notice it, and then you notice it again, you notice it again, you notice it again. And as I've said before, if we see good evidence and we don't keep track and we don't give it its conscious, full attention that we should, I think we're going to be passed over for a lot of other good, proper evidence and truths of things. Honestly, I do. So, here's what I'm going to do. A lot of people who are familiar with my material and history for going back years know that I went from believing one thing. I started out an evangelical Christian who believed in historicism eschatologically, was far more focused on Revelation, other New Testament things. And it was literally just work on those things that forced me to start paying attention instead of Greek and the New Testament, to what I believed was Hebrew in the Old Testament. Now I understand it as the language of Obri. And little by little, whereas once the New Testament overshadowed everything about the Old Testament, which is the way with most people who believe the Bible, the New Testament far outshadows the Old Testament. I think there's a reason for that goes beyond just being just an organic phenomenon. I spent more and more time in the Old Testament and in Obri, and I found more and more that the inorganic Hebrew, Masoretic Hebrew that was applied to the language didn't add up. It didn't add up contextually with the rest of the text, because certain words have to be defined multiple different ways to make these things work. It didn't add up with reality. We couldn't see things in reality. I'll give you a good example. What we think, like for instance, what we think Genesis 2 says. Virtually every single translation will tell you that there's a river that proceeded from Eden to water the garden, and it split into 4 heads, or 4 rivers, and then names the 4 rivers and tells you about this great expanse of geography that they cover. And I struggled with that for a long time, because here's the problem with that. We don't see that in reality. We never see that in reality. Rivers never do that in reality. No river system that we know of on the face of the earth does that. They literally have to. First off, they're missing 2 rivers. If you want to believe the Middle Eastern model, they're missing 2 rivers. And the speculation is endless. Some translations put like, I think it's the Pishun or the Giyun, one of those, because that's the 2 they're missing, the first 2, Pishun and Giyun, right? Some translations make one or the other. The Nile. They literally put in the Nile. We let them get away with putting in the Nile. Some put in the Ganges. What's the problem? Well, the problem is the only way they can get away with that is to completely de-educate us concerning hydrology. How rivers work. So, it oftentimes, the Bible, what the Bible actually says, we can't square it with reality, with the creation as we can see it. Does that mean I know everything about the creation, or anybody knows everything about the creation? No, it doesn't. But in general, especially if we're reading, creation story about the creation, specifics about the creation, we would expect for a lot of that to somehow be able to square with reality. And rivers never distribute. The only place you'll ever see a river distribute is at a delta. They contribute. Rivers come together to make bigger rivers. They don't distribute. Do you see what I mean? So when they try to make the Euphrates and the Tigris, they fantasize forever to try to make them have the same source, and then they fantasize about these other rivers, and none of it squares with reality. And no matter where you would want to put this, there is no river system, there's no water system that involves rivers where you could have such a distributary like that. It just doesn't work. So, in the course of realizing the things that I started realizing, one thing that you realize in all of this is that there has to be a specific people that have been kept in we're going to say, a pure state as per laws that dictate marriage between all those people at the time of exiting Mitzrayim. So there's a lot of people by the time they exited Mitzrayim. So it was this group of people that were going to be kept as a distinct group. So laws were drafted at that time about how they could and couldn't marry and all that stuff, so that they would remain a pretty distinct people forward. This is something that you're going to come to find. They weren't replaced with any spiritual people. That's not a doctrine that can be proven. It's very fallacious, very weak. But here's the thing. So when you start finding these things out, when I started finding, I'm going to use the proverbial you. When I started finding these things out, there was still a lot of naivete. I was naive. I don't know how I could have not been naive, because maybe it's in my nature, and I think it's in a lot of people's nature, I do, to want to believe that there's more genuine people out there than disingenuous shills. I think all of us would very much to believe there's more genuine than disingenuous people out there. And this is very much what I wanted to believe. There has to be some. I mean, I understood there are probably very few. And I thought, well, there's got to be some. I mean, there's got to be some groups. There's got to be some belief systems that are totally genuine, whether they're right or wrong. So, from that time forward, I started believing some things about different groups of people, because I cycled through different groups, believing that this group was adversarial to this group was adversarial to this group, and so on and so forth. And I don't care who you are, for those who will down the road make judgments against me for some of the things I believed and then changed my mind about. I don't care who you are. You can be as politically correct as you want to be, but you are still going to believe that one group of people is adversarial to one or more groups of people, or one or more groups of people are adversarial to one or more groups of people, or one or more groups of whatever are adversarial to one or more groups of whatever. And as long as you have those beliefs that most religions believe and practice and push on their adherents, you're going to believe that. I don't care if you're a Calvinist, you're going to believe that Arminians are adversarial. You're going to believe that the atheist is adversarial, and so on and so forth. If you're the atheist, you're going to believe the theist is adversarial. No matter if you believe they're adversarial in a very militant, hurt you and your loved one's way, or philosophically adversarial, which if you see philosophical adversity to its end, it has a very similar effect as straight militant adversity. See it to its end, you think it out to its logical conclusion. Adversary is an adversary. An adversary is not trying to make their adversary, whoever they perceive as their enemy, they're not trying to make them fruitful. So that's fine. If anyone wanted to use any of that as some kind of criticism against me in any way, shape, or form, and they have already, groups have already, well, that's fine. And there will be more. Because obviously now I'm on the outs with other groups that I was never on the ins with. Everybody knows I've never actually been part of any of these groups. Never been a part of Christian Identity. Never been a part of British Israelism. I've never been a part of white patriotism, that sort of thing. Never been a part of any of these groups because their ideologies never fully sat right with me. And they still don't to this day, because there are certain things that's really uncomfortable when you see them and have to deal with them. Most of these groups, as much as they seem like they're very different, most of them will absolutely agree on certain core fundamental subjects that I cannot in good conscience even be okay with anymore. So that's why I'm going over where I am or where I stand. And I have a couple pages of notes. I'm just going to go off the notes here. First point, where we are should be dictated by what we can prove, or at least articulate to a degree. As in, this, I believe, is the strongest evidence for. Now, I can't ask for more from somebody or even an organization that wants to have a constitution, they want to believe things, it's a group of people. I can't ask for more from them than to have that attitude. We believe what we believe, not because we know for a fact objectively we can prove this in every way, shape, or form that this is correct, because I don't know anybody who can do that regarding much of anything, other than the fact that the sun comes up and has every single day. Unless it's cloudy. Or that if you put a seed in the ground and it's fertile ground and it's going to sprout, it gets sunshine and a proper amount of water, food, nutrients, it's going to grow into a plant. There are some things, but I don't know any society or religion or anything else that has a constitution founded on whether or not seeds grow where the sun comes up. If they pop up, then I would say they're probably the strongest belief system that I'm aware of. Next point, I will soon be deleting a lot of content that does not comport with my current understanding and evidences. I don't want to be associated with it anymore. And if it's something like an older thing that you think is really important that you want to keep around, download it. You get a tube catcher and download things just like that from YouTube. There's very easy ways. You don't even need a software to download things from like BitChute. Download stuff. I'm not keeping it up. I don't want to be associated with it. And it could be a lot of stuff. So if you got like little favorites, download them. Now, I don't really mind if people share them, but anything I delete off my channel, look, if you want to put such and such, like say it was a book that I read or something, you know, my OP narrates, and you want to put it was narrated by, well then it's the truth. But just don't continue an association with me and that, because it's just simply things I don't believe anymore. And I'm not talking about things that certain parties can use to really defame or slander or hurt someone. Literally, if I don't believe anymore that drinking coffee is good for you, which I know it's probably not good for you, and I delete all of that stuff, I just don't want to continue to be associated with it. That's why I deleted it. That's all I'm saying. So, I want to go over, this is important because this has to do with where I stand now. So what do I know? This is important because this goes back to the first point. We should be dictated. Where we stand should be dictated by what we can prove, or at least articulate to a degree, to a pretty good degree. Not the baby Huey that goes on social media and gets triggered and spews this garbage in all caps, you know, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, cap, 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 cap. That's not a belief. That's an emotion. So, what do I know? Boy, it's not a big list. One, I, or really we, have been lied to. We've been lied to about nearly everything. Enough to prompt me to be skeptical about everything. Everything. If somebody had a religion on the sun coming up and going down every day, I would say that they probably have the strongest one out there. However, I might still be skeptical as to the reasons that I've been given as to why the sun comes up and goes away every day. We've been lied to about everything. Therefore, I and anyone else is perfectly within their rights to be skeptical about everything. Now, we haven't been lied to in every way about everything, like as in, take a subject. I don't care. Physics. No, I'm not. I know some physics, understand the basics of physics, but let's just take physics. Not everything about physics that has been forced on us is a lie, but enough lies and theories and things that are not provable have been injected into that topic to not trust or to be skeptical about all mainstream physics, or all physics, until you can work this stuff out and see what's actually true and good and trustworthy or not. That's something I know. And I know that because I can articulate that to a certain degree, to where I know it's at least best evidence that we've been lied to in some way, to some degree, about basically every single topic that's important. And even a lot of them that you would think, that's not that important. What's the big deal with mayonnaise? Why would they lie about mayonnaise? You never know. So it doesn't hurt to just keep kind of skeptical. This doesn't mean that you have to go and hide in a cardboard box in the middle of the woods as much as possible, though that doesn't sound all that bad at this point in time, to be honest. What it means is it doesn't hurt to be skeptical about fucking everything. That's all I'm saying. Doesn't hurt. 2, the Old Testament, and please hear me out here. I would not say this if I did not have very good, strong evidence on everything here that I'm saying. The Old Testament and New Testament do not harmonize. And it's far beyond merely a linguistic issue. It's not just that the New Testament is like all the New Testament old documents are in Greek, Koine Greek, in different forms of relatively different shades of Koine Greek. And what we have for the Old Testament they are different. The different Masoretic texts, that mostly they're in block Hebrew. Some of them are a little bit different, like the Great Isaiah Scroll and all of that stuff. But Hebrew, Greek, Hebrew. And so because of that, no, we don't have a lot of terminology is not even consistent. You can have passages in the New Testament where a passage in the Old Testament's being quoted, and the Greek is putting in theos in every single instance, theos, not kurios, that changes from the Septuagint to the New Testament in a very, very dramatic way. Theos. And you go and you check these things in the Old Testament, you find out sometimes it's Yahweh, sometimes it's Elohim. Ooh, that's weird, but that's a linguistic thing, which you would look at that and you would say, I don't know how these people figured that was okay, because you go back to the Septuagint and you find out almost every single time, the majority of the times you'd seek Yahweh, you'd usually seek Kyrios instead. Kyrion, Kyria. It's not just linguistically. It is idealistically, philosophically, prophetically. And where I once believed that Revelation was somehow a grand cipher, like the great, in a sense, reduction and clarification of all of the prophets, which I don't know why I ever thought that. That's freaking crazy. I think that it's actually more of a muddling of, first off, consistent prophecies that we can see over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, running through as threads of consistent thought throughout the Old Testament or Law and Prophets. And you guys, I'm currently just about halfway through editing an old German book written by a guy named Wilhelm Kammeier, called The Falsification of the History of Early Christianity. I'm editing, and someone else is translating, and I'm telling you, besides for the fact that that big presentation I did on Josephus and Mason and the things that I saw and found out there, in addition to that whole series I did, Let's Consider Luke, there are massive, undeniable problems. Problems in the texts, the original Greek texts. We don't have anything older than them. Problems between the Gospels. Serious problems that can't be reconciled, that can't be harmonized. Can't be, as they stand. So what I'm saying is this: unless somebody can prove that there was a singular text and that some bad guys came along and made all these different texts that don't agree, they don't harmonize, they do not, you got serious problems, because history is one thing that happened. And we are not looking at something from 4 different perspectives. We are oftentimes looking at completely different claims. But even if you could find one singular text, and you said, well, this was the original, and then they just came along and they messed everything up from there, it still wouldn't harmonize with the law and the prophets, i.e. the Old Testament. It still wouldn't. I mean the entirety of the New Testament. The Gospels, the Epistles, Revelation, Acts, absolutely, especially Acts. My goodness, Acts. Oh. Don't have a knee-jerk reaction. Don't be emotional. Don't be that person. Try to take some time and think about this. You're not going to be struck with lightning by using your mind, not your emotions that you were programmed with. And that's what I had to do. That's what took me so long to get to that point where I finally said, it's true. This doesn't add up. It was because I had so much fear. Fear. If you deny Christ, if you deny this new covenant, this great revelation, and originally, fear of what? Hell, being tortured in fire forever. That's a good one. Fear of death, being struck down. Don't be afraid like that. The same God who says, come and let us reason together, Isaiah chapter 1, is going to let you reason these things out and wants you to. Point 3, things I know, or at least have seen a good amount of evidence for. Okay. The Old Testament, or Law and Prophets, as I prefer to call it, is still, in my humble opinion, the best candidate for a record of the world, its creator, and its inhabitants. Its inhabitants, whether we're talking about the floor, the rocks, the people, animals, whatever. Sun, moon, and stars. Okay? Why? Why do I hang on to it in that way? Am I just a religious zealot? Am I being unreasonable? I don't think I am. You see, I have read, like not fully in some scholarly way, I've read pretty darn good chunks of about every religious text out there that's available in English to read. And even if the translations aren't super, and the translations of the Bible aren't super, they suck. The thing is, the Law and Prophets, the Obery Law and Prophets, what we call the Old Testament of the Bible, is still vast, in my humble opinion, vastly beyond what we're looking at in, I'm going to say it, the Quran, the Talmud and Kabbalah, the Bhagavad Gita, it is. I still think it's the best by far candidate for explaining these things. Now, if for some reason I found that to not be so, I would absolutely tell you that. I would come out and I would say, I don't think so, and here's the reasons. And I'm going to be doing that as time goes by. with the other things. I forgot to, sorry, this is all messy. Anyways, why? Consistency of voice. Big one. Big one, big one. You can actually see if you read any author's work, you can see or you can hear a consistency of voice. You can see and hear, you can witness a consistency of voice throughout the Old Testament. Except Esther. And maybe the Song of Songs is a little, I don't know. Might still be valuable. Even shilly literature is value. It has value if you realize it's shilly literature. Because then you can get why it was even made. Like, what were they thinking? What were they trying to accomplish? Shilly literature is valuable just because it's shilly literature. We just got to be able to determine that it's shilly literature and then figure it out from there. I just mentioned, the Old Testament has a consistency of prophecy and theme throughout. All 39 books except for Esther and maybe Song of Songs. And because of very, very strong, concentrated efforts by this regime in power to steer people away from that. They will steer people towards the New Testament, Christianity, all that. They want people away from that. Okay? Just think about how much the law is trashed in New Testament thought. And then go read Deuteronomy 28. The agreements between Israel and Yahweh for the keeping of the covenant at Horeb, which the covenant heavily had to do with the law, like his law, like the reflection of his character and what he expected of people. He didn't just hold Israel and Judah to a standard of his law. He held the nations to that standard. And he oftentimes judged the nations because they had broken his law so badly in so many ways for so long that enough was enough. But the law gets absolutely trampled on in New Testament thought. Trampled on. And the very few groups out there that don't do that, I'm going to use strong words, completely piss all over the Old Testament by bringing in all kinds of erroneous doctrines and dogmas that make their adherent, people that subscribe to their way of thinking, that make those people look like fucking lunatics. That's deliberate. That's deliberate, and you know who you are. And when I say you know who you are, I'm speaking directly to the people that push that shit. Those dogmas. Insert dogmas into the law and prophets, not based on scholarship, but based on bullshit. To hurt people, not to help them, to hurt them, to keep them enslaved, to keep them from actually knowing the truth, to keep them from actually maybe experiencing the Creator in some way, whatever way they can. And not everybody's going to in the same way. Four, our understanding of the Old Testament or law and prophets is faulty. It's faulty. I've demonstrated this over and over again. This isn't a new thing. Me saying that is not a new thing whatsoever. It is. It's very faulty. This applies to every dogma taught by every so-called teacher today. Satan, the idea of this great Satan figure, the devil. I've tried to approach it at more than a few of these people on the problem with that doctrine. I've even presented them, for instance, one of their own. Sheldon Emery has a whole series called Give the Devil His Due, where he goes through and shows the serious problems with ever believing that there's actually this being, the devil and demons and all of that. And that is definitely, that's one thing that always made me feel better about Emery as being sincere and genuine, is his complete disbelief that there's any good evidence. And the thing is, he had a lot easier time proving that in the Old Testament than the New. It was tougher in the New Testament because the New Testament ideologically is nothing like the Old Testament. It doesn't harmonize with the Old Testament. Satan. That's dualism. That's paganism. That there could ever be, there's this great opponent. This great, powerful opponent. Light and darkness, the yin and the yang. It's no great opponent. There's one creator, one sovereign, Yahweh, and that's it. That's it. He says, I bring good, I bring evil. He does. Or we do opposite of what's natural and good that he has given us to be able to do and act. Why can we do it in a world that he made that was perfect? Because for one thing, it's not going anywhere. It's not escaping. We live in a closed realm. Clean foods. Some of the worst translated portions of the Law and Prophets are Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. Clean foods. Clean foods. I still don't know of one guy out there who literally, these people will judge people like crazy if they eat ham, if they eat shellfish. Because they say, oh, well, they just eat anything. They're dirty and everything else. I think they're oftentimes appealing to people who haven't lived on a farm and raised animals and seen animals and how they act. There are plenty of animals out there that will fucking eat anything. In fact, almost every animal that I'm aware of, and I'm not even stretching it, whether you want to call them an omnivore, an herbivore, carnivore, virtually every animal I'm even aware of is an opportunistic eater and will eat anything that is presented to them. Yeah. And a lot of them eat some nasty shit that you think that's clean foods. Oh, well, we can reduce it to the chewing the cud and the splitting of the hoof. That really, let's get together and let's talk about those verses that say that it chews the cud and splits the hoof. Let's look at those words closely and see if you can prove that those verses are saying chews the cud and splits the hoof. In addition to all of the ways akal and ma'akal are translated. So I'm sorry, I went into that a lot, but this is a serious issue. Anyways, the garden issue and what happened in the garden in the fall. Just the first few chapters of Genesis and everything, like the first 12 chapters of Genesis. Okay? Issues, man. Issues. And the dogmas people put in there, like the Esau dogma. Race. The dogmas and the nasty shit that people bring to the table regarding race that I've brought to the table because of, for one thing, many of my own experiences with other races as a race, not as much with individuals. I've had bad experiences with individuals too, but here's the thing. I've had more bad experiences in and among my own race than with any others. I have no intention from this point forward to use or repeat or even echo in any way, shape, or form the same kinds of mentalities that most of these very shilly people echo. However, at the same time, I don't plan on ignoring it either, because that's just as bad, and a whole different group of shills in a whole different area do that. It's just as bad. We need to recognize it. It's a real thing. Children will tell you it's a real thing. We need to talk about it. Differences, strengths. We can talk about it in the biblical context as much as we know. And that's one of the big problems. That's one of the big problems. These people can't prove much of these BS dogmas that they keep pushing. History. Big problems. Most of the shills stand behind this whole thing that it's 2,000 years on from Christ. It was 400 years before that the last prophet Malachi wrote the last book in the Old Testament. Horseshit. I don't believe any of it. First off, nobody can positively date Malachi. I did one of my briefs videos on how you can't. In fact, I showed how the prophecy in Malachi concerning Elijah wasn't about John the Baptist. It was about Elijah. Duh. But we've all been taught it's about John the Baptist. And I'm going to tell you right now, I believe some of the last books written that are still part of the canon in the Old Testament were Ezra and Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah. And I'm also going to tell you that I believe those books were probably penned no more, at most, 4 or 5 centuries ago. And that those were the last genuine books of any prophets or record keepers or anything. But we'll get into that as we go. The natural world. Man, oh man. It seems like we accept so many things that don't reflect the natural world. Dogmas that people teach or bad translations that we currently have in the Bible, they just don't reflect reality. Why? Because our our understanding of the Old Testament is faulty. It's faulty because of the language. Anybody who's still teaching out there using Masoretic Hebrew, I don't care if they're, I'm using Strong's and look around in Strong's. Or, no, I'm using Cruden's Concordance. Oh, no, I go all the way back to Jusinius. It all sucks. It's all garbage. It's all based on Masoretic Hebrew or Koine Greek. Either which way, it's garbage. It's garbage language. Here's why. It's garbage language. If Obri is not a self-evident language, which theoretically, this is what I've been basing a lot of the work that I do on, that it is a self-evident language. You should be able to look at it and its parts should make sense in a self-evident way. And here's the thing, if it's not self-evident, you are at the mercy and the will of whoever wrote the lexicons, whoever penned the translations, and whoever wants to spin them in every god-awful way they do today. And everybody pretty much does. Prophecy, the law, we don't understand those things very well. We're killing ourselves based on misunderstandings and dogmas. We have drug and alcohol problems because we put so much strain on ourselves. And we don't understand these things, not properly. Fuck that. And I mean that. That's no way to live. It's no way for anyone to live. And I know why a lot of people do. It's why I have for a long time. It's because you want something pure. You want something pure. Badly. In this world full of lies, you want something pure. So I understand why so many people are so zealous about these points of the law. I have been. You want something pure. But the problem is, I've seen enough to know those points, as these shills make them, are not pure. Point 5. No one I'm aware of has yet to accurately articulate who is ruling the world. All theories I've heard are full of holes. This means pretty much everybody except who I've been talking about recently. It's full of holes. These theories, I believe, are inserted, popularized, strengthened by the very people who are actually ruling the world. The people, I believe, most of the evidence exists for ruling the world today are a people not all that dissimilar from myself in the same racial category. We could say different ethnicity as far as like different tribe of people like me. But yeah. Point 6, I know answers aren't easy. They're not easy, they're not simplistic, and most of the shills out there focus on simplistic answers because they know people want something. It goes back to the idea you want something pure. You want something pure. You want something simple. And maybe I've misspoke. Maybe a number of the answers, they are simple. But getting to them from where we're at and how we've been trained to misunderstand the world, ourselves, our Creator, everything. Maybe the answers are simple, but getting from where we're at now, which is just full of misunderstanding and lies, to getting to those answers, that's not simple. That's not easy. And the people who present these simple answers that usually make you, they're designed to paint you as retarded or crazy or angry or hateful or whatever else. That's exactly why they're doing it. To make you out to look like that. Point 7. Right. 7. If there is a God, and the Bible is a record of him and his dealings with creation, and I'm not saying there's not. It's just, if everything that exists now, as it exists now, the way things are now, the saturation of lies in everything, it was ordained. It was ordained. You don't get to blame it on a devil. That's nonsense. It was ordained to be this way. I submit to you, as bad as the translations are, Daniel 7, 8, 9, they explain this quite a lot. Why things are as they are. And maybe they have a lot to do with not only Israel, but everyone. Spending a long time, like well over 1,000 years, really loving lies. And we, as a people, and the world, many peoples, who knows, have made our bed, and right now we're laying in it. So all those shills out there, all those shill teachers out there that incite people to anger, to looking like lunatics on social media, where a lot of it gets recorded. A lot of it gets recorded. They're doing that deliberately. Things are as they are because they've been ordained to be this way. I would say the best thing you or anyone could do is dedicate your time, whatever time you can. If you're seriously so busy because you're trying to support, survive, whatever. I know a lot of people, and I've known a lot of people throughout my life. I've never known somebody who is that busy, even in the business of supporting a family and taking care of them, to where they can't dedicate 30 minutes a day to some real serious study. Not reading the Bible in a translation that's been offered to us and falling asleep half the time because it sucks. Just anything serious. Reading something, thinking about it. Use the internet, see what you can find. Does it jive with reality? Do some underlining. Use a pencil. Not an orange pen or a highlighter. I made that mistake in an important book one time. And it's kind of difficult because if I see other good points, if I had used my handy-dandy pencil, Ticonderoga, great eraser on the Ticonderoga, I could just erase those. Make light underlines, parentheses, notes. I put notes in the margins like every single book I read. I don't just read it and fall asleep while I'm reading it. I read it, I pay attention, I underline, I make notes in the margin. 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes a day. And I'm not telling you need to study the Bible in some boring-ass translation. I'm telling you to read things that are important, think about them, and do some work on them. And then share it. Start sharing it. I'm not a scholar. I'm not a scholar. I'm not a scholar. I'm a former fucking junkie. I'm a former junkie. Been in jail 13 times plus, probably. I probably forgot other times because I was a fucking junkie. You don't have any excuses. Unless you've been worse off than me, you don't have any excuses for dedicating all your time to you. And I've also found, and all the people I've known, that I got to work all the time. I got to support, don't you understand? Don't you understand? I got a family to support. Fuck you. Most of the time, you're not doing that for them. Bullshit. I call bullshit. Do something. Do something positive and productive. Beyond just putting food on the table, because putting food on the table has become very simple these days. It really has. Do something beyond that. Do something real. Something that will last them. Your children, your grandchildren. Eight. This is the last one of what I know, kind of, for the most part. If I didn't see, this one's important, and this explains a lot of why I ask questions, make posts that I do. If you're not in the Obery Project Panoply Facebook group, join and participate. But the Obery briefs, the briefs that I do too, this explains a lot of it. If I didn't see it, then I don't know, and I mean know, it happened. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I don't know it happened. I think this is a good attitude to take. Back to point one, just about everything. If you didn't see it, I would simply require a lot of good, strong evidence. If you want to believe somebody else, especially the establishment, this current regime, this one who rules by the strength of other people, they don't even fight their own battles. They're so brilliant, and I want to call them sick. I want to say all kinds of terrible things about them. I do. But they are here now because it's been ordained. They're so brilliant. They don't fight their own battles. They create and incite wars between the same people. That's something. But look, that's who you're believing these claims by. Them. I would be more skeptical. I can't believe so many people who take this attitude of like, oh, that's crazy. What, you don't believe this happened? And there are some people out there that are now starting to burn the straw men that they've been building. Them and their buddies have been building for years now in this whole retartaria thing. Now they're starting to burn down those straw men because that's the whole point of building a straw man. The whole point of building a straw man is to make you look fucking stupid and then to burn the whole thing down. And then what do you got? You got nothing because you didn't put that 30 minutes plus in that you could put in. It's your fault. So look, there's the things I'm pretty sure I know, and they're going to help articulate kind of where I stand. Where am I? So what don't I know? What are the things I don't know? Too much to list. It's just way too big to list. I couldn't even get started. It's too much. And I don't want to go on anything I don't know. And here's one of the problems, is there's too many people out there who act like they do know things. And they're either recycling bad information or they're making up new bad information. Why would they do that? Selfish motives? Are they working for the regime? I don't know. A lot of them directly, sure. A lot of them indirectly, probably. Just working for themselves. They see something maybe on YouTube, gets a lot of views. That's what they go for, and they just recycle garbage. Recycle garbage. Recycle garbage. Why are you falling for it? Stop falling for it. Use your brain. Do some work. And I do. You know what? I do have the right. I have earned the right to sit in a position where I'm telling people, do some work. Do some work. Make some sacrifices. Commit. Where I've gone wrong. This is the last part. Because I'm over an hour. I know that. Where I've gone wrong and the way forward. Simplistic bad guys. I covered this a little bit. Simplistic bad guys, simplistic good guys. Most of those shills out there, they specialize in that sort of thing. You're the good guy, they're the bad guy. You're the good guy, they're the bad guy. And it doesn't matter who we're talking about. It doesn't matter if we're talking about the rabbis that do it in the synagogues. It doesn't matter if we're talking about the white nationalists that do it on their live streams. It doesn't talk, if they're doing it on their radio stations or whatever else. That's the whole point of what they're doing. You're the good guys, they're the bad guys. You're the good guys, they're the bad. It's not that simple. First, it's not that simple. And most of the time, it's complete bullshit because you're the bad guy. And that's what nobody wants to fess up to. You're probably the bad guy. Maybe not entirely. And I'm not trying to preach some kind of, self-help, look inward, because not all problems are inward. A lot of them are external. All the lies, they're not necessarily inward, they're external. What I mean is, it's just not that simple. People who preach that kind of shit, teach that kind of stuff, get people all messed up, in the head. It's not that simple. Watch out for those people. Watch out for those people. Because, look, at the end of the day, I don't care who you are, there's improvements you could make personally. Is it going to necessarily stop everything that's going on out there? I mean, not tomorrow, but it's sure gonna help. Can't hurt, right? Okay. So the idea of this is still the same point. Antagonistic groups. I think most groups, because they're groups, because people, everybody, I don't care what your race is, ethnicity, they're tribal. They act tribally. Now, there are some people that they have gone out of their way for at least a century, probably more, to try to beat that out of, to try to beat that tribalistic nature out of. And most of you listening to this probably know the people I'm talking about. They've gone out of their way to beat that out of them. But most people are naturally tribal, which is going to make them also naturally, in a sense, antagonistic towards other tribes. It's not even a bad thing. Now, when they start doing things that, like, if you have two people, you know, I live somewhere and then I have a neighbor, I'm not doing everything I'm doing to try to enrich my neighbor, but I'm not doing things to try to harm them either. Do you understand what I'm saying about tribes are tribalistic, people are tribalistic, and they can be naturally, to an extent, antagonistic in the sense that they are for their unit, their tribe, their family. It's not a weird thing, it's not a bad thing, but when it becomes criminal, and it has in a lot of ways, that is bad. But where does it end? And these are the things, the natural, I'm trying to illustrate how natural it is, but these shills use those natural things to try to create that us and them, you're the good guy, they're the bad guy, you're the good guy, they're the bad guy kind of atmosphere. And it certainly doesn't mean necessarily if there's a group that's antagonistic towards your group, that they're the people at the top. It doesn't mean that. And a lot of them try to teach that too. My opinions of other races, ethnicities, and tribes has changed over the years. It's not as dark or certainly as angry, but it still exists because it's still real. And those things are still used as weapons, one people against another. So I'm not going to stop paying attention to that or pointing it out. Another place I went wrong, I never appreciated, and I brought this up earlier, I never appreciated the extent of controlled opposition. Listen, this regime's resources, money and otherwise, are so extensive, I would say anybody is absolutely wrong to ever underestimate how many shills they can have out there. Trolling in social media, because they're trying to set a tone like, don't you understand? If you go into a local group and you say something counter-narrative and it seems like almost everybody is attacking you, that doesn't necessarily mean that those people are real, actual, organic. They could be because people tend to follow. If there are trolls out there setting a tone, setting a narrative in social media, people are going to follow, and then they're going to take that attitude into real life. That's part of the point of social media, is to condition you socially so that you carry that into your real life, like real, actual living. Overestimating the good intentions of anyone, especially in my own group. And again, going back to the same thing, I'm the good guy, they're the bad guy. I'm the good guy, they're the bad guy. This is what most of these shills teach over and over and over. They reinforce this constantly. I don't think my own group is actually the good guys. I think my own group is my own group. I have my opinions about who my group is and their place in things, but I don't think they're the good guys. That's important. Good and evil, good guys, bad guys, white hats, black hats, that is so shilly. It's such a control mechanism. I put on record, this is something I'd like to warn people about. I put on record a number of times support for people who I now know, looking back, are complete fucking shills. They got me. You got me. You got me. But you're going to have to use stuff from a while back, quite a long time ago. And the thing is, I can tell anybody now, no, I don't believe that anymore. But at the time, it seemed like it was best evidence. I don't believe that anymore, though. Be careful, because a lot of them incite people to say things on social media that can be used against them. Be careful. And I guess that point 4 leads to point 5, the arguing on social media. A lot of it, pointless. Pointless. Honestly. Post, participate. It can be good intellectual activities. If somebody wants to have an honest intellectual debate, great. I'm all game. But this arguing, and because somebody says something and they're really slick, they're a very good troll, and they can definitely hit the right buttons on people, fuck them. Don't even ignore them. Don't engage. Or if you see that it's going in that direction, disengage. Who cares? Let them win the argument. It doesn't matter. They don't matter. Because they're most likely a troll, or they're brain dead and they're just following what the trolls do. Doesn't matter. Expecting too much from myself and others close to me, my own family. And this leads back to this weight that a lot of people carry around. They carry around either the weight of being taught from the earliest age they're going to go to hell if they don't believe a certain thing. They don't do a certain thing. And then even the people that get over the hell myth, they're taught they're going to be struck down by lightning or whatever, man. What? Stabbed to death or something if they don't do this. And I can't explain to you why a lot of bad things happen to a lot of people, except for a lot of times those things really do happen because those people chose those lives. I can't say that is the case in all instances because I don't know everything. But there's a lot about personal choice that's in there. And we carry around too much weights. And carrying around those weights and carrying around that baggage and being in fear and in dread and thus angst all the time, it's going to make you a bitter, angry, unpleasant person. And it has me. With all these things on the table, then how am I going to proceed? In brief, I'm going to start doing those live streams, their story live streams about historical propaganda and how much does it add up. I will probably be doing also a live stream on my own, which will literally be going word by word, verse by verse, starting at Genesis 1:1 through the Law and Prophets. And I'll continue to do these briefs. As far as new presentations, I don't know. It could be a long time. I will continue to publish tools and materials as much as I possibly can. And within the next couple of days, I will have that OSK that I featured on the last briefs up. And maybe a more updated version of the roots table, which I'm always working at and always re-understanding and everything. That's another work in progress. Probably have that up. And I have changed the format of the concordances. I'll have them up. Really, all of this within a few days. And I will post at the Obrew Project Panoply Facebook group when I have these things up. So if you're not a member, join the group, participate. Somehow, some way. And that's it. That's all I got. And that's for the record. So, till next time, take care.